What's up, everybody? This is Jeff Bernard with Solve Systems, and today we're going to go over how to build a MCP server for Paylocity. So, what is an MCP server? An MCP server is called a Model Context Protocol server, and basically what that means is it wraps context around an API and allows an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude to call this as a service. You have two options here. You can run it locally or you could run it remotely. Remotely is a lot more resource intensive to be able to go and spin up, and there's quite a bit of expertise that you need to have to do that. But we are in this video going to get a local MCP server up and running on the Paylocity API in Claude. If you need any development help, please reach out. If you would like to get the server from me and you don't want to do it yourself, drop a comment below or go to the link for our contact page and give us a shout. So let's jump right into it. The first thing we're going to do is go to Postman /explore /MCP -generator. And that will allow us to generate an MCP server. So we're going to go into here and type in Paylocity. And we'll see that we have Paylocity set up here. So we're going to want to just create something simple on the employee endpoints. So to do that, we're going to look for employee demographic, and then we have several options here. We have batch, which will get all the employees, and single, which will get a single employee's details. Now, Paylocity has made some changes with their API in that you don't have to go and get just the users that object like the old web link. The new API allows you to be able to have just their all of their details in basically one API call, and then you paginate through and get all of those results. We're still going to have the single employee endpoint, and then we'll have the employees batch endpoint, right? So these two. And then we'll go and get authentication because we're going to have authentication. So we'll say get the bearer token, and really if you have access to these other pieces of information, you can do that. One thing that you would probably want to do is get job codes, and you can actually, if you have the API permissions, you can create all this stuff from Claude. So meaning all of these actions, these methods, these get, put, delete, post, you can perform all of these in Claude, but we're just going to do some get requests, make it simple, and not have anything that's attached to a tenant. So we'll go into here, and then we will add these requests. So you'll see it added these requests. Then we'll generate the MCP server. It takes a few seconds, and then before we know it, it pops out with a zip file. What you're going to want to do next is bring this into something like Cursor, which is this, and you'll have to get it to structure your project in the following way. So everything's pretty much done within tools. So you have tools, you have APIs for integration building, and these are going to be all your different endpoints, right? So get bearer token, you're going to have to do that with every request, so it's going to need to do that. And then it has the entire function here to be able to go and get the token and push it into the environment variables, or rather checking the environment variables for the client ID, client secret. So backing up a little bit, we have our env file. You definitely want to have your env file, and you want it to be structured like this. So you have Paylocity client ID, you have your client secret, grant type, Paylocity token URL, Paylocity company ID, and base API. So this is the token URL, their security endpoint, and then this is the actual demo endpoint for Sandbox. Now your URLs are going to be different. You'll want to check the Paylocity API documentation to get those endpoints, the production endpoints, if you're using this in production. So once those are set, we can make sure that this is all structured properly, and we're not going to run through every line of code, but we're basically making our token request here, and then we're saving that into a variable. And then we have get cost codes. We have our get employees, single employee. We get batch. This will allow you to get all the employees in your tenant and loop through and paginate and pull back those results, ask questions about it, get a single job code if you wanted to drill into a job code and its details, and then get job code batch, which would allow you to get all the job codes associated with your company. And so this basically allows the LLM, it makes a wrapper around the LLM, right, your MCP server, and then allows you to integrate it with Claude. So now that we have all this done and completed, we're going to save it. And then we will go into Claude, show you how to configure this. So we'll go to Settings, Developer, Local MCP. You won't have this here at the moment, but you will have the edit config. This will bring you to your Claude Desktop config.json, and this is going to open up in Cursor as well. So after you have installed this, you can just basically ask Cursor to help you install this. It'll install some npm packages, allowing you to spin up the server. And then this is the format for the JSON. So you have your command is to basically look in this node bin, and then this is the server path, right? So once that is configured appropriately to your environment, you're going to want to restart Claude. So we'll just restart it to show that. Okay, and then we have our projects. A good thing to do with Claude is ground your MCP server further in the context of a project. It just kind of like keeps it on the rails. And so once we're in Paylocity, say get me all employees. So it already knows to call the Paylocity endpoints here. And then it starts making an API call behind the scene. And then it's going to spit out formatted versions of this. Then we can ask a few more questions. Okay, so say you're an HR person and you have this connected, right? You're up and running. You have active employees. It tells you basically everything that you're going to want to understand your demographics in more rich context than Paylocity has in like one single report, right? So notable data points, and then we can say like, so where are most employees located? So it'll start telling you all this information. So you think about this in the context of your company. This grounds this model in your company data via the MCP server locally, and then it can just offer a litany of things. I mean, you can export CSVs, just sort of, it's a multifunctional tool. So the next step here would be to remotely host it. We're not going to go over that in this video, but that's something we'll be developing and releasing soon. So you could check back in the comments or send us a message directly if you want to get access to this online. So you don't have to configure the config file, etc. You're going to be able to actually just go to the browser and hit Claude and then go into the project settings and then integrations. And then you'll actually just be able to add this as an integration name, and the server URL. So we'll be coming out with that in a few weeks, and be looking forward to the next video on how that integrates and the setup. And again, if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to reach out. If you need some dev help, reach out. If you want to get this MCP server and run it locally, reach out again. So we look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good one.